Okay, excellent. So we are back in open session. Welcome back, everybody. Because the noticed purpose of the executive session was discussion of potential hiring of an official for COCC. I think probably people can guess what we're going to talk about. So do we have a board member who would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the appointment of Dr. Greg Ferreira as the next and 7th president of Central Oregon Community College beginning July 1st, 2025, and to authorize the board chair and vice chair to negotiate the terms and conditions of Dr. Ferreira's contract on behalf of COCC, provided, however, any contract with Dr. Ferreira will remain subject to the approval of the full board at a future public meeting.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution. Is there any discussion?
Oh, I guess I want to say and just say a word about Greg and how impressive he was. Not only looking at his past experience, but in coming to COCC and meeting with multiple groups time and time again, was able to show that he really cared, that he had done his research, that he wanted to learn more about COCC, the community, the people who work here, the students. And he, even though he was only interviewing, started forming a vision for the future. And so we're very excited about him coming to serve as our president. And we look forward to the future. Thank you.
Are you going to say something to think on the process?
Yes.
I am. Anybody else want to say anything about Dr. Pereira? No? Okay. Yeah, I would like to just take a moment and thank everyone who participated in the process, which was, I think, everybody in this room and a cast of thousands more, literally. I especially would like to thank Erica because she was the vice chair for the search and took a lot of time and a lot of energy, and she talked me down off of, not so good place a couple of times when I was like, this is a lot. And Zach, who, was doing 2 jobs for the last 6 or 8 months and doing them very, very well. And Lori, who's helped us to, when we sort of vetted the process, did this process work when you were going through it? And, but has been very careful to stay out of the process because she feels very firmly she should not choose the next president. So we've appreciated your assistance, and everybody else in this room, and especially our students and our faculty and our classified staff and our administrators and our senior leadership and our community leaders, all participating in the interview process, giving up time to not only meet the candidates and evaluate them thoroughly, but also to come and meet with us and give us feedback. And it was really thoughtful feedback. It really helped us to have a vision of where everyone else on the college is going. I would say it wasn't just good in helping to select a president. It was helpful to us to understand sort of on a deeper level the state of the various groups on the college and the college. So it was really a great process. So I know it was a lot of time, but gosh, I think it was worth it.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for
Laura.
Yes, thank you, Laura.
Yes. I promise you, the last time I'm doing this. Fourth time's the charm. So we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by saying no or raising your hand. Noting none, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations to Dr. Greg Pereira and congratulations to COCC.
Indeed.
Indeed. Fabulous. Okay, now we move to the consent agenda. Has everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes? If so, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, please indicate by saying no or raising your hand. Noting none, motion carries unanimously. So we move to our information items and the monthly budget status. Does anyone have any questions for Michael?
I have a quick one. Property tax. So it came in 91%. So it's down a little bit from our projections.
Well, we usually receive about $1 million from here until the end of the year.
Okay,
But I'm tracking that we might be a little bit short, but not really much.
Okay.
A budget.
If I remember right, the last two or three budgets we've had an increase of more than anticipated or average. And for whatever reason, even during the pandemic time of 20, 21, 22, we got more than what we normally do.
It's been averaging about 5.6% increase every year.
Hope continues.
Good question, Alan. Thank you, Michael. Anyone have any questions for Laura on the new hire reports?
will we get an introduction of our mattress person?
That's a good question.
Pardon me, I had a text I had to read.
Can we at some point, I'm assuming that our new mattress person is not here, but can we get a intro
Oh,
in the near
absolutely.
future?
We would be happy to make that happen.
Yes.
Yes,
Awesome,
we can do it next meeting.
great. Okay, now we come to that very, very important, but probably not the most exciting, our annual audit presentation. I think we all got a copy of the audit and had a chance to look at it, and then if we have any questions. But I think, Michael, we've got our auditor here.
Yes, Heather is on Zoom. So Heather McMeekin is the partner on the COCC audit with Price Branch and KDP. So I think Heather can take it from here.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. So for the purposes of this meeting, as you mentioned, this isn't the most exciting topic, very important. So we had a very detailed meeting with the audit committee to go over the financials in a lot of detail. So at that level, we, really pick it apart, get to ask any questions, all of that. So for purposes of this, it's just a very high level. Just wanted to point out a few items for you guys. And then if there's anything that you guys had seen in the financials that you have specific questions on, I'm more than happy to answer it. Just pretty much keeping this at a very high level so we can get through it. So first off, I just wanted to
Questions, right?
What's that?
Questions.
Oh, of course, of course. Yeah, and jump in at any point. If you have questions, Michael, feel free to jump in if you want to add anything to what I'm saying. So first off, I just wanted to say thank you to the COCC staff. Audits are very time consuming, take a lot of resources. You guys have, a lot going on just in general. So to add us coming in, constantly asking for different documentation and questions and all of that, it does take a lot of time on both ends. So I just wanted to say thank you to the staff and then also for the audit committee for, reviewing it in detail, having good conversations, questions. So I think the most important piece that you guys need to know is the audit was a clean opinion. We didn't run into any issues, anything that would, change our opinion. So that is really the most important thing to note on the financials. A couple other things to point out. You guys had an increase in your net position of 10 million. Keep in mind, if you guys do look at the financials, you guys typically look at budget basis, and the financials, we give an opinion on government-wide basis. So it's very different. I just wanted to point out the difference between the two if you guys do look at those. So you had a very big increase in revenues this year. It was mixed of an increase in student tuition. Your state aid payments fluctuate each year, the timing. So this year you had 5 payments versus 3 the year before. Property taxes, I know you guys kind of just discussed this with the budget. You guys had a large increase in property taxes this year. I shouldn't say most of it, but a big chunk of that was an overpayment of property taxes you had. I believe that was from Jefferson County. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So you had a big increase in property taxes, whereas this upcoming year, but if you look at the 2 years, you're going to see a big decrease as that offsets and corrects itself. There was also a big gain due to your Aubrey Butte land sale of about 1.8 million. So that increased your revenues. And then your investment earnings, mostly your interest income, that was an increase of 1.1 million. So just those factors right there, resulted in pretty significant revenues. On the general fund side, your total fund balance increased to just under 8 million. And that was a mixture of your revenues exceeding your budget by 3.8 million and your expenses under budget by 3 million. So again, if you're curious as to what those fluctuations are, it's in the financials. Just wanted to give you a high level. There was one thing to note in the financials. In the financial aid fund, you were over budget by 458,000 in state program expenditures. And this is just due to, you have to remember the offset of it. So when you look at budget to actual, this was the expenses that you were over appropriated on. However, you also did receive the revenue from that grant. So you received more revenues. It just wasn't properly appropriated on the expense side. So that was, the only comment in the financials. And then you'll notice there was one prior period adjustment that we included. The details are in the financials. It's surrounding PERS or your GASB 68. I'm not going to go in a whole lot of detail because it's just, very boring and, hard to explain. But basically, there was this prepaid PERS asset sitting in your balance sheet as your asset, where it was really already included in the liability number that was accounted for. So we just cleared it out, and that, should have been taken care of years ago. So it shows as a prior period adjustment. So I just wanted to point that out as it was a big number. Again, that is just related to your government-wide, so unrelated to your budget basis financials. Other than that, it was also a clean opinion on your compliance audit, which was over your federal aid program. So that's kind of a separate piece that we look at, your compliance for that. I think that was all I had. Just wanted to keep it short and sweet. So Michael, if you had anything else that you wanted me to touch on, or if anyone had any other questions or anything, go for it.
I don't have anything to add. Kathleen, do you have anything to add? Kathleen joining us on Zoom as well.
Yeah, nothing specifically. Just wanted to point out for the aid, we were over appropriation within our financial aid fund, but the entire financial aid fund was within appropriation. So it was just the state aid line. Due to a new funding source, it was Oregon Tribal Student Grant that was awarded in fiscal 23, but the spending really increased in fiscal 24.
Perfect. Great. Well, yeah, I think that's all I had. Thank you guys for all your help with everything. Congratulations on finding a new president. That's exciting. I bet that was a lot of work. So exciting things coming for you guys.
Thank you very much. Can I call you on for 1 second? Alan's got a question.
No, as chair of the Audit and Budget Committee, I just want to thank Heather for the work that she's done now and in past years. We get a lot of good information from Frankenprice and whatever else the name is, because it's just changed. And so I just want to thank you a lot, Heather. We really appreciate the work you do and the staff time that the staff puts in to help assist you and support you. It worked out well, and so thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Alan.
Can I make one comment also?
Of course.
Yeah, just wanted to thank the people, the folks on my staff, the fiscal services team, Jenna Flannery, Matt Klingen, Kevin Vivanco, and Andrea Comer, as well as Brianna Sylvester and the financial aid team, Ryan Powell, Josh Klassen, as well as HR and payroll. So a huge lift by a lot of people. So we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Yes, thank you. Thanks to all of those folks, because As long as I've been here, the audit's been a pretty boring read, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yes, that's better than the alternative.
We'll try and keep it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. All right, and thank you for serving this this year. That's important, and yeah, okay. So let us move to the Student Support Center update. And I think this is Alicia and Christy.
All right, thanks so much. Actually, this is a little bit broader than just Christy's area. So I'm gonna lead the presentation, and then Andrew Davis, our Dean of Student Engagement, and Christy Walker, our Dean of Equity and Wellbeing, will chime in when they have questions specific to their area if you want to get into some more detail. So what I first like to do is just give you a quick overview of the Student Affairs Division and its key components, or 5 departments of enrollment management, student engagement, Andrew's area, equity and well-being, institutional effectiveness or institutional research, to use some older language, and our technology project manager. And the areas we're going to focus on tonight are really how we're co-locating our services towards help us achieve a grander vision around the student engagement and equity and well-being elements of our division. So our vision, when we take a look at the wide array of student support services that we provide at COCC, is when we look at our student engagement and we look at our equity and well-being work, is to not only increase the coordination of care and support and help prevent students from bouncing from one end of the campus to another, but to, with that, end up increasing that greater access to those services, with the bottom line of growing that participation so that students have a greater sense of belonging and we can actually contribute and give them the tools they need to help be successful. So that's our vision or our goal for this upcoming work. And the piece that I want to share with you a little bit on this, as we started working through how we can co-locate some of these services and create that greater coordination of care, is that there's not one single space that is large enough to put all of our student support services into one place. And so we want to co-locate services with where we can find space for like areas, or I call them affinity areas, to be closer together. And you'll see some of that in just a little bit. The other piece we want to really focus on in our work is to ensure that we're delivering our current services well before we start adding more and start expanding more, and delivering those in a really strong way, especially given the organizational redesign we went through in this last year or so, and make sure that we have the staffing to really do our services well before we start adding additional elements to that. But bottom line, it really is about increasing that sense of student belonging and giving them the support, wraparound support services they need to be successful. So with that background, we're going to jump into a quick overview of what the different moves and the different services are that'll be brought together. And I'm doing a bit of a riff off of our all college kickoff with all of our employees. We have a section called New Faces, New Places, to recognize new people to the college and new positions people might have moved into. In our case for tonight, we're looking at new spaces and new places for some. So the first of these is co-locating some elements together in the Coates Campus Center. Some of this started when we received a federal grant to expand our current Veterans Resources Center, which is a pretty small space, into a much larger, much more robust space that includes offices for the Veterans Services staff to be closer to the students that they serve. And so any of these that you see on this list that have a star means that it's either someone moving to a new space or they're getting their space remodeled. And I'm going to show you actual floor plans for these in just one moment. So some of these are services that are already within the Coates Campus Center, and some will be ones that will be moving into there once we have a myriad of other moves. The other element is the services that are around Ochoco Hall. And one of the things Betsy Julian, our former Vice President of Instruction, made a great observation on many years ago is most of our student support services, no matter where what organizational area they're within, are on the west side of College Way. And our one exception was when we started the Clothing Connection, which is more in the central part of the academic area of our college. And so wanting to bring together some of those support services in a way that extends their outreach across the college is looking at our basic needs or our well-being resources and centering those around the Clothing Connection in Ochoco Hall. So for example, we would move the food bank from Coates Campus Center to across from the Clothing Connection. Our SNAP and our Thrive programs also move into that area. And one of the practices we're starting to see as a best practice nationally and regionally as well is when we know that when students are struggling with basic needs such as clothing, food, and other financial resources, they're often struggling with some mental or personal mental well-being challenges too. And so wanting to co-locate our personal counseling services in that same space. So if someone's in distress in one area, sometimes they're often in distress in another. So that's the kind of rationale of clustering those spaces here and then some of the spaces in the Coates Campus Center.
Alicia, can I ask a question?
Please.
Is there any concern about putting all of the services like that together in one place that it somehow stigmatizes that place?
Great question, Laura. One of the things we see for our students right now is that all of these services are now in 4 different locations on campus. So they have to go one place and tell their story and find out they really need to be another place and then retell their story. And then they might get bounced somewhere else for a second support service. And by that point, students are tired. And so bringing them together into one space and creating that as a nice and welcoming place where students can feel a sense of pride of having these services together really does go a long way to get over that kind of stigmatization side of things.
Can I add something here? Before I came here, when I was back in Michigan, I had a chance to visit Amarillo College in Texas. And they are truly a leading community college in many ways. And they had about the coolest centralized system of student services. It was right in their library when you walked in, and it was called the ARC. And much like the Clothing Connection, it was set up like a store. You're just a person going in to pick up food or to pick up clothes or to talk to somebody. And so I think that the placement within academics really in that environment reduces stigma, I think. And just the fact that it'll be really good looking and welcoming. And I don't know, I'm not going to get ahead of Alicia and the whole team that's worked on this. There might even be a new name for it that would signify something kind of hopeful. But I was just amazed and impressed when I went to Amarillo, and they do some other things really well too. But I just want to add that because I don't think it has to be that. Thank you.
Yeah, and you'll see, we don't have the detailed design of each space quite done yet, but one of the things in working with campus services are some of the things Lori mentioned, right? How can we set up the food bank so there's aisles, much like a grocery store? How can we take out the old chemistry lab tables in which the Clothing Connection was placed into and make it more like a retail environment? Add some windows to make it inviting and make it a welcoming place to be. So looking at how things are located, I know this is some small print, but hopefully you could see this in the packet ahead of time. Where my cursor has disappeared, so I can't really point for you too well, but this is in the Coates Campus Center, lower level, kind of the south end of the building. And the space that you see in the top left in this drawing is currently a storage space shared with our food service area. If you were around many years ago, that was our construction office for our construction project management team. And that never was a finished space, and we intended it to use when we knew we needed to expand our services. So that'll house our Veterans Program Coordinator, our Veterans Outreach staff position, some quiet space and decompression space for students. And then next door to that will be all of our diversity and inclusion staff currently in one location, or bringing them together in one location, because currently they're in 2 different places across campus. Across the way at the bottom of that will be our food service office, which right now they're tucked way in the back, and students have a hard time finding that staff when they have specific food service needs. So this will be able to give kind of some shared services in a co-located space. The other thing is where the food service office currently is, food service is a convenience store, really small. It's little bit bigger than our standard office size. And it is highly trafficked, highly used by students and staff from across the college. And we'll be moving that over to the bookstore where they can have a much larger footprint. We'll still partner with Sodexo, our food service provider. We'll staff it. They'll provide all their contracts and all the supplies for us. And so we're working through the agreements on that. The other piece I will share is the Veterans Center in specific is part of a federal grant that comes along with about $150,000 in remodeling, in a remodeling budget to help us cover the cost of that particular space. This space, so this is shifting up into the upper level of Coates Campus Center. So where you see it says the broadside in the bottom left, that's currently our food bank area, a meeting space for student clubs. So that'll be repurposed for our student newspaper. Student government and the student life, student engagement, some of the diversity inclusion office staff will still stay in the bottom right corner. And across the way, we'll move our first year experience team who've graciously moved to temporary offices while all of these dominoes come into play. And then finally, the space in Ochako Hall. You can see the clothing connection across the top. That's its current footprint. And one of the things we were able to do through our federal Title III grant, our Strengthening Institutions grant, is create an assistant director to help coordinate all of these services. So one of the best parts of that outcome is right now the clothing connection is only open a handful of hours a week when we have volunteers available. But as long as that assistant director or other staff are around, we can keep that clothing connection open easily 20, if not 30 hours a week, as well as access to our food bank. And then immediate across the stairs from the food bank will be our personal counseling area, our Thrive, which is our partnership with a local nonprofit to serve as benefits navigator, and our STEP program, which is the program to help SNAP benefit eligible students. And you can imagine Josh Clausen, I need to give him huge credit. He is helping us work through all the dominoes of making these moves and displacing people for the least amount of time as possible. And so the timeline for both of these, I'll pull this up at one time. Not going to go into all the detail because a lot of this really depends on City of Bend permitting timelines, right? So we've got the Veterans Center, where we should be getting the permits here in the next couple of weeks at the very most to start construction soon, with the goal of having an open house at the end of May. And we will get you those details here as soon as we know we have the permits in hand. And then the rest is really a trickle down or domino effect based when contractors are available, when we can move staff, when we can get other spaces remodeled, but with the goal of having all of that done by October. And then the Ochako Hall space, we're just starting the initial preliminary designs and getting those to an architect and doing that sometime in spring and finishing that up with the permit process in late spring with remodeling work and completion of that to be mid to end of fall quarter. And so finally, one of the questions that was asked about all the different student support services was how do students know about these, right? And there's not just one single channel for communication. Probably I won't say our most effective, one of the most frequently used one is on our application for admission, we allow students to check boxes for if they want additional information on a specific service. Their name and contact information is then shared with that particular program or department, and that department will do outreach to the student, whether sometimes it's a phone call, sometimes it's an email, sometimes it's a newsletter, whatever the case may be. And as we implement our new admissions application, which goes live in June, we will expand all those different options on there to include many of the support services we just talked about that are newer in the last couple of years. Certainly our COCC website, students are well versed in using that. We have a monthly student e-newsletter, which we call it kind of a drip campaign. We don't put every service in every single time, but there are certain ones we will trickle in each month to make sure students are aware of the myriad of services out there without overwhelming them all at one time. Lucas and his team does incredible work with our social media avenues that are available to us. Canvas is our learning management system that all students use in all of their classes. And e-learning has set up a fantastic resource page in which a lot of these services are shared. We certainly have a lot of employee and partner agency referrals. I would say if I had to quantify this, and it's more anecdotal than not, most of our references come from the faculty and staff across the college. And finally, there's the old-fashioned campus flyers, right? And probably the most effective one that we hear the most from students is what we affectionately refer to as the toilet tribune, but it's the announcement that's in each of the bathroom stalls. So that is a quick overview of all the different changes and all the different dominoes that'll be happening over the next 6 to 9 months, and happy to answer any questions and have Andrew or Christy chime in if needed.
May I say something? I wanted to add, Alicia, thank you, and Christy and Andrew, for your leadership on this. And I think this plan has gone through many iterations, as you might imagine, to get to this place. And a lot of staff and students were engaged, and they didn't all get everything they wanted, I'm gonna here to say. And if there's one thing that is really hard in an institution, it's these kinds of moves. It's making the decision, it's helping people understand and be engaged in the process. And so I think a lot of people in this process put the college first, rather maybe sometimes they had to put their own interests later, and they put the students first. So I just want to compliment everyone who worked on this, because I think it's a pretty amazing outcome. Alicia may have a few bruises and scars, I don't know, but you know, it all turned out, I think, for the best.
Yeah, really excited to bring these together and just save students all the frustration of bouncing 3, 4, 5 different locations across campus. It's a great direction for us to head.
Really exciting.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Very exciting.
Awesome. Nice job.
It's amazing. I
Well
feel like
done.
just a year ago, we were
Yeah.
talking about this in theory, and now it's really cool
Yeah.
to see it all
Yeah.
coming together. So nice work.
Well, and I want to give credit to all the folks who helped with grants too, because that really does make a very sizable difference in helping us reach these goals.
Thank you, Alicia and Christy and Andrew. And Erin, thank you for the suggestion that we get the update on the agenda.
Thank you guys.
Any more questions for them? No? Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right. So I think that Zach, you're up with the
Indeed, thank you.
community engagement item.
Pulling it up so that our folks on visual can repeat as well. Aaron's not so down. Oh, Michael's not so down. I know, I don't know. Thank you, Lucas. All right, welcome to the presentation on the community engagement aspect of the strategic plan. This is a pretty straightforward, a couple components, goals and indicators, so we'll go through it and I'm happy to take questions as I go, or you can save them till the end. So remember, we have 5 goals in our strategic plan, and community engagement is one of them. It's not bolder and bigger usually, just for this slide.
Oh, come on.
I like it. So thanks, Laura. The community engagement goal definition is that COCC engages with and responds to the needs of the communities we serve. And the 2 indicators for community engagement that are in the approved plan are college-sponsored events and participation with key stakeholder groups. So let's go through both of them. The college-sponsored events definition is that these events include the number of events, that's key, of events outside of traditional instructional offerings, and include any activity formally sponsored or endorsed by the college, or at least some of the intended participants are community members. Examples are our Season of Nonviolence programming, our Chandler Lecture Service program, series programming, some of the events that our admissions and records teams do with in the high schools where they're sponsored, and again, where we have folks coming in, we do things with the Deschutes County Public Health, et cetera. So any place where we have intended audience being not just faculty, staff, students, but community members welcome as well. So as we look at this data here, I'm going to You can see that we were 20 and 21, we show this graph to kind of show the bottom of the barrel, which was the true COVID year. When we came out of COVID in 21, 22, we tried to use that as the baseline as we were developing this indicator for the strategic plan. So you'll see up there in the target increases yearly. We were thinking coming out of the 73 and 21, 22 and the 71 and 22, 23 that we could have some modest increases in our college sponsored events. Well, you can see that in 23, 24, the baseline year, we rocketed ahead to 129. So we've heard us talk a lot about stretch goals with our strategic plan. We're thinking that we may have already sort of reached our stretch goal. There are a number of reasons that this occurred. A couple of them were just wanting to get back in action after some lull in the COVID years. A couple of them were that there are an appetite, I think, in our communities. So this is all 4 campus events for the programming that COCC offers. We have a high turnout for a lot of our events, which is pretty great. And also just thinking about the landscape of Central Oregon as folks came out of the pandemic, there was maybe even, one might say, too many events if you looked at the event calendar on any given night. So the rationale here underlying all of this is that we recognize that producing events often takes significant time, energy, and human resources, and the annual targets represented a modest growth over the life of that strategic plan. And yet here we are at 129. So we're going to be looking at this, and I'll get to this at the last slide, about whether or not that's sustainable. And when we see our 24, 25 numbers, whether or not that's something that we can maintain at that level. Campus services, we can't do these events without campus services. We can't do these events without our grounds crew, signage, all the things. IT is always there for these events. So it puts a lot of strain on the college in a way that we don't want to really take folks out of their normal job. At the same time, a lot of these give us great recognition and awareness, and they raise revenue for the college in many instances when folks use our spaces. So that's college sponsored events. The second indicator in this goal area is participation with key stakeholder groups. The definition is a bit longer. So key stakeholder groups identified for this indicator include what we call our educational, workforce, and civic partners, and educational partners, OSU Cascades, City Club, EDCO, and their regional offices. And I need to update this slide because they now have reinstated their office in Jefferson County. So that's going to be 5. The Bed Redmond, Sun River, Lapine Sisters and Madras Chambers of Commerce, essentially anywhere there are chambers that are active in our service district. The High Desert Education Service District, the Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council, and our workforce partner at East Cascades Works. So when we look at the rationale for these, active engagement would be a priority for the college, and then 85% or higher would indicate ongoing meaningful partnerships with those groups. And active engagement is defined as formal MOUs, an active membership. Think of the chambers, we're members of those chambers in all of those communities. Representation on a board or committee by COCC staff or faculty, or related formal commitments. How are we doing? 23-24 status. I mean, it should say exceeded. Anyone who remembers the old restaurant association stickers on windows in the state would say met, exceeded, or did not meet. You didn't go in a restaurant that said did not meet, by the way. So this should say exceeded in my opinion, but it is met in that we have representation of 13 of 14 groups. All of those that are identified have formal or representation, as I explained on the previous slide. The only one that doesn't have that formal is COIC, but that should not be quite the red X that it is, because we partner with them at East Cascades Transit, and we have good conversations about Core 3. Obviously, Tammy is a good friend of the community and the college, so even though we wanted to be clear that it didn't meet that definition, there's still partnership with that organization. Yes, Laura.
This might be a conversation for another time because it might be more in depth, but
Sure.
I don't see the Prineville-Cook County Chamber of Commerce.
Well, that should have just been, it's not omitted in the slide. We are members. Sorry, my bad. Yes. Thank you.
It's not they're unwilling to engage or.
Not at all. So that's just me in this slide. Let's go right back. That just should have been, yeah, my oversight. Because we are members of the chamber in all those areas and with EDCO and all those partnerships, as you know, with Kelsey and her team out at Cook County. So thanks, great catch. I'll blame my SLT members for not catching that one here. This time on Monday. No, thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. So some other considers on these indicators. There is a limit to the number of college-sponsored events we can successfully execute, as I said earlier. And on the contrary, there's great demand in the district for college-sponsored programming. People like what COCC does, and they seem to turn out for it. And again, the list of key stakeholder groups does not reflect the full breadth and depth of COCC staff and faculty representation in the community or groups we're aligned with. We have partnerships and sponsorships, for example, with the Latino Community Association, the Fathers Group, other groups, Envision Bend, So we could be exhausted with that. And if we looked at every place that a COCC staff, faculty, or student was engaged in churches and little leagues and neighborhood associations, it's hundreds. Julie Downing was over there. We talked about this in the last strategic plan. We tried to track all of that. And it's frankly really impressive, but also a lot to track. So we get out as a faculty and staff. We have a culture of that, of giving back in the community. And so we wanted to at least reflect it with our business, industry, and civics partners, including the Crook County Chamber, which is now getting lots of mentions. Which is good. Anyway, so those are some other considerations as we talk about these two indicators. And then a little bit in terms of future data, we want to ensure we have the correct baseline and reasonable expectations, especially around college sponsored events. As I said, we're going to know a lot more this year with what that number looks like. Did we decrease? Did we increase? What's our new baseline? We're already clearly hitting a stretch goal. We just had no idea we were going to be able to do that many. And are we already achieving those stretch goals? I want to give a little shout out. Someone who's super helpful in this work for us, who's worked at the college 20 years, Jennifer Pierce. She's retiring at the end of this month. So just for you to know that. And so a lot of what we do with our college sponsored events, you can imagine we've partnered with the chamber, for example, on some events like the Bend 101 we did last February. The chamber now uses the college's space for a lot of things. Their Bend 101 program, a lot of their expert labs, et cetera. So that partnership and co-sponsoring now became a little bit more of a partnership where they're coming to COCC to get a lot of their things done. And I think that's pretty cool and has a revenue stream for the college. And those things don't happen without a big team. Jennifer's a huge part of that. So I wanted to give her her shout out in her last technical board meeting of her career at COCC. Questions and comments on these two very straightforward goals, which include the Crook County Chamber.
What is your take? Do you think we're like a little overextended with 129?
You know, that's a great question. I don't know if we're overextended, but I have a sense from our colleagues and just, you know, what we do that's probably a lot. That might even be a high water mark.
That's what I was wondering if
Yeah.
it's sustainable.
Yeah, you know, and like you talk to Christy or Charlotte too, who do our great Student Nonviolence program, our Black History Month programming. These are important things that are not a lot of other organizations are doing. So to me, they're sort of events and activities that we put on that we would always want to do to meet our mission, to uphold our values and our principles. Meal of the Year counts in this, right? That's an event we are not going to take away. But some of the other ones, Laura, you're right. I would just say that, you know, our great team in student affairs, as Andrew knows, you know, the turkey trot, storm the stairs. Those are college sponsored events. You know, if they came and said, we're overwhelmed, we can't do that. People aren't turning out. We'd of course listen to that. We're not making folks do that. But there's great demand and people show up for that stuff. So it's also really fun. We host Balloons Over Bend on this campus now. 1,500, 1,700 people come up on a Friday night and get to experience COCC. So those things are really cool. But I think you're right. I want all of my colleagues to know there's not an expectation that they have to do these because we're doing a pretty good job.
But I think it helps illustrate why the impression of all the candidates who came on campus was that the community here sees this college as our college.
Yeah,
It's belongs to the whole community because
it does.
Because people feel engaged with it, even if they don't currently attend.
You know, and we've done more events in Redmond and Prineville and Matters in the last couple of years, even if they're small, because we want people to feel like, even if you're not taking classes, that the campus is here for you, right? Come on campus. That's been my sort of MO since I started. I'm just like, we have these treasures. We need people to be here. And then they think, oh gosh, maybe I might do something more at the college. So I heard from people at Balloons Over Bend last year that have been in Bend for years that know about CCC, but have never been on this campus. So that's pretty cool.
I think we need to look at it. I think it's a good question, Laura. Are we extending ourselves too far? There's could be a measurement or you can never measure it. But what we're trying to do is get top of mind and as well as it's a sales and marketing tool.
Yeah.
So it really should be sitting underneath, if you will, our promotion.
Yeah.
Marketing and everything else.
Yeah.
Now, we may drop it down to 96 or whatever it may be, but we
Yeah.
gotta be damn good at what we are doing.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I guess that's the other piece of that answer, Laura. We don't want to water anything down so that when we're doing these things, they're not high quality, top notch events.
I just didn't
Yeah.
know if the number was sustainable.
Yeah.
That was my concern, not a fear that we needed to go bigger.
I suspect it'll be about 100 to 110. Again, there's so much difference in every year. Our 75th anniversary this year, we're doing events around that we wouldn't do next year. So there's a little noise in that data that's just annual ebbs and flows, but I'm guessing between 100 and 115 is probably where we'll land the next 3 years.
weren't each of the public meetings at each of the campuses with each of the candidates we invited the public.
Those actually fit the definition, absolutely, yeah. So there's, hold on, 4 times 3, there's 12. Exactly, I'm decent at math. Yes, Erin.
Tell us a little bit more about the events that are held on the branch campuses, and of course, Lapine.
Yeah, I'm not sure we have done a college sponsored event other than the board meeting in Lapine. That technically wouldn't fit the definition, so we haven't, I can't think of one. I'd have to pull that list, Erin. If we did something sponsored in Lapine, it's a great opportunity maybe for the fairs in the summer, things that we do. Because even when we have booths or tables, so we've been a part of Prineville's Pride Fest.
Yeah.
For the last couple of years, but we're not a sponsor, but we have a presence. So I know our high school folks, our high school partnerships folks, and get into the Lapine High School, et cetera, even if it's not a college sponsored event. So that's the answer to that. And in terms of other campuses, because we can usually host them on the campus, we have a space to do so. So Anna does a great job, and Jeremy did of hosting the Chamber Coffee Clatter at COCC Matters. That's an example. We had a film screening with the Chandler Lecture Series last fall at the Matters Performing Arts Center that we sponsored. That was an example. I know Prineville uses their community kitchen for a lot of events and does stuff with all kinds of nonprofit organizations that co-sponsor. So those are examples of that. It is easier. Lapine would be an example. Sisters would be an example where we haven't done something like that because it is tougher than just staffing a booth or being something that's already going on in those.
I wonder about like partnership opportunities for us to be a partner in something that's happening down there, just so we can. Find a efficient way to have a greater presence.
I would love it. I would love it.
We've done a lot of chamber events in Cook County.
Yeah.
That's a common. Other people have questions or comments for Zach?
Good job.
Yeah, great job. And I'm really impressed that you had the time to put this together. I know what you've been doing for.
I didn't read those on Saturday. I was like, well, it's been a full work day. I'll just go home and do this. Oh, it's great. This is a team, the data comes from the team. Institutional effectiveness pulls this. The PowerPoint templates there from Alicia. It's all wasn't that hard. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Great. We are under new business now. Oh, this is exciting. The dental hygiene program proposal. Julie.
Can I kind of tee this up?
Absolutely.
If you don't mind.
Please.
So, in the state of Oregon and in higher ed in general, you cannot have too many approvals of a new program. And so, the board always approves new programs when they are finalized. We are coming to you for permission to develop the program because it doesn't seem quite right that we do all the other steps of internal committees, dental associations, the HAC, our accreditors, et cetera, et cetera. There are many steps. And so if you were only seeing this at the end of all that, I think it'd be pretty hard to say no, right? At least, yeah, I think so. And so as we've done with the BSN program, we want to come to you now and give you our understanding of the general structure, cost, commitment of developing this program. And so when we're saying we're asking for your approval, it's really approval to go through all those steps. And somebody will come back, Greg will come back again with Julie and do the final approval. So thanks, Julie.
You bet. All right, well, Lucas is getting the things up. How many of you have had to wait longer than you wanted to get your teeth cleaned? Yeah, right, all right. Oh my gosh, it's a thing, right? It's not just here in Bend, it's a national shortage of dental hygienists.
I don't have to wait. I just have to make sure get my appointment 1 year in advance every 6 months, and if I miss it,
Then you're okay.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
That's what it is.
That's the trouble getting it.
Okay, thanks, Lucas. All right, so as Lori said, we just wanted to talk about a few things today. I wanted to first talk about the difference between a dental assistant and a hygienist, since we have a beautiful assisting program here. Why we need dental hygiene here, and then a little bit about the program and then the budget, thanks to Michael who helped me a lot. And then just kind of the next steps.
So dental assistants, you know what those are probably. They're the folks that when you're getting a procedure done, they're assisting the dentist, right? They're handing them things and doing all sorts of things that behind the scenes, right? They prepare, they sterilize equipment, they prep it before, they clean it afterwards. They manage patient records, as you can see, they take x-rays, so they do a lot. Man, an office, they cannot function without them, right? But the hygienists, right, they're on the prevention side, right? They're educating their patients on hygiene. And they do exams to make sure they don't have any kind of oral diseases. They clean their teeth, as you know, and they work independently, right? So they're in a dentist's office, they're working on under the license of the dentist, but they are cleaning independently. So they really need both, right? And so we have one program and we need the other. So a little bit about the need. So we'll look kind of larger and then we'll go more Central Oregon. But as I did mention, there is a shortage and there's a little bit of a maldistribution too, in that it's especially the rural areas, right? Where we're really, really lacking having enough hygienists so that you can easily schedule an appointment every 6 months, right? Like you should. And then we do have this is looking at Oregon Employment Department, but there's an anticipated 10-year growth, right, in our state of 12.7%. If you look at just on average, it's about 316 openings, right, for dental hygienists in just our state. Oregon has only right now 4 dental hygiene associate applied science degrees, which is what we would have. Those are currently at Lane Community College, Mount Hood, PCC, and the newest one that just opened this past fall is at Rogue Community College. So there's only 4 across the whole state. There's 2 bachelor's programs, and that's at Pacific University and OIT. An interesting thing about OIT is they offer 2 cohorts, one in Klamath Falls, and they offer one on Chemeketa's campus in Salem. So those are the ones that we have currently, and it's not enough to meet the needs.
Julie, what is the functional difference for someone with the AAS versus a BS? I mean, like, what does that mean in terms of, like, do you have more responsibility or do you get paid more or what?
One more year of school, you don't get paid anything different.
Oh, okay.
So we did actually inquire, I met with the folks from OIT to see maybe we could partner with them. But they're only willing to offer the 4-year degree, and I just point blank asked, like, look, do your students get to start more? Do they make more? Can they advance? There's no difference. So I'm like, okay, thank you. We will build our own. Wow. So, yeah. The average annual salary in Central Oregon in 96, and I just looked at it's actually a little bit closer to 97. But I mean, that is a good starting wage, right? For a 3-year program. So about 18 months ago, I had actually about 2 years ago, I had several dentists coming to me. And boy, at our I felt so bad for Lynn Murray, our dental assisting person, but at her advisory board meetings, all the dentists wanted to talk about was hygiene. So they were, anyway, so we've had just lots and lots of interest coming to us saying, we need this. So we sent out a needs assessment survey via Qualtrics to all the offices in Central Oregon. I mean, Madras, Prineville, Lapine, Redmond, everywhere, right? And we had 73 responses and 100% of them said, yes, oh my gosh, we need this. Most dental offices hire, between 1 and 6 hygienists per year or overall. And then 7 of the offices said they employ more than 6. Most of the offices hire between 1 and 4 annually, right? And 85% of them said that there's going to be growth. So there's what I wanted to know is, are we going to saturate the market? And it appears that we are not. Plus, we want our students here to be able to go other places as well, right? But there's a definite need.
So Julie, I have a question, and you might not know this, but are dental hygienists also the ones that work at orthodontic offices?
Both assistants and hygienists work there. Yes. Yep.
So that's another place that hires them.
Okay, so what will the program look like? It would be 3 years. So the first year, they wouldn't technically be in the program yet. It's just like our nursing program, exactly the same. In fact, there's 1 class difference in the prerequisites. It's almost identical. They're taking their anatomy and physiologies, their biologies, that kind of thing. So the first year is just 45 credits of prereqs. Then it would be a selective admission and they would get into the program again, just like nursing. 2 years of very intensive, lots of hands-on coursework, so that they by the time they come out, they are a skilled hygienist. It would be an associate of applied science degree, and you know, just I had a chance to meet with all the other schools and just looking at what works the best. We would like, nothing's set in stone yet, right? We would likely do a hybrid lecture. Some of them are doing a completely online lecture. I'm thinking we'll probably do maybe meet in person periodically, or maybe at least meet in Zoom, so there's some synchronous component, right? And then the Bend campus would host our in-person labs and our dental clinics. And the only reason we can't do it in the other areas at this time is we don't have any teaching operatories in those other places. We have 8 operatories here, which we'll look at here in a minute. But they are required to also do externships at dental offices, and those can go to all the communities, so students can go do those in their home communities. Like I said, it would be selective admission. We don't have the details worked out on that yet, but it'd be something similar to nursing, probably take a TEAS test, which is kind of looking at their aptitude for science. And then also, I'm guessing we would do something like the HSRT test that we do now, and of course, looking at their prerequisite courses and grades, etc. So we'll likely start with 15 students if we keep our current system of 8 operatories. So an operatory, if you look at the picture, right, which one is the pointer? Is it the, there, I found it, okay. So you can see the number 8 here. So that's the number 8 operatory, but operatory is just the room where you go to get your teeth cleaned, right? So it's just the chair, you can see the x-ray, and then you'd have to have sink, you know, and just set up for the tools. So that's just an operatory. We currently have 8. There's 5-to-1 student instructor to ratios for all the hands-on things. That's even more stringent than nursing. Nursing is 8-to-1. So 5-to-1. So most of the places across the state, most of the other schools, they all have 10 operatories. Then they can take 20 students. We have 8. You can take 15. So we'll look at the money part of that, but we're looking into portable, there's like movable portable operatories. And I'm working with Josh Clausen to see like, hey, can we build 2 more? How would that work? Right, so we're looking into that. We would have to share that current lab space with dental assisting, right, with the 8 operatories. So faculty, we would have to hire 2 full-time people in the first year, 3 in the second year, because we have 2 years rolling, right? And then lots of part-timers would be hired in as well. And then the estimated start time is 2027. It's at least 2 years. We have to go through CODA, which is the accrediting body. We don't have a choice. You have to be accredited or you can't operate. And it's quite rigorous and stringent process. So, all right. So how much will this program cost? So you can see I've got it listed as, you know, the 15 students, and then the far right column is the 20 students if we can get those 2 other operatories. So you can see there, back there, sorry about that. You can see the revenue here for 15 students, we bring in about 457K, 20 here. You can see the expenses. And then you can see with 15 students, and this is in year 2, right? Because you got to get 2 years rolling. We lose just under 100K. Sounds like a lot, but CTE programs are expensive. Very expensive, right? You have to subsidize in other ways. But if we have 20 students, we actually make a little money. Not that that's our goal, but at least we don't want to go on the whole too long, right? And one thing I did want to note is that each student with these numbers that Michael and I figured out, they would be paying a fee, you can see on the very bottom line, of about $2,000 per term fees to be in this program, in addition to tuition. But the cool thing is about getting some of this money back is that these students have to clean lots of teeth, right? As part of the program. And so we can actually charge for those. Most places charge about $40 for that. And so that would allow us to bring in kind of a stream of income. And that is included in these numbers. There is some startup costs as well. So before this would ever happen, right? So additional equipment, $25,000, things that we would need for hygiene that we don't for assisting program director for 2 years. CODA requires we hire the program director before the curriculum is developed. So it's a very expensive process, because I gotta hire them now because, I mean, I think I know what the curriculum should be, right? But they have to determine that, so we have to hire them first. And then accreditation fees, as you can see, and then the portable operatories run us, give or take, about 150K, so all total, it's about $400,000 investment in. And then next steps, with your approval, we would hire that dental hygiene program director. I've got a job description all ready to go. Need some approval. And then that person would develop the curriculum. They would get, they have to do an extensive self-study, get all the code approvals we need in a site visit. Then there'd be other approvals needed. Of course, our own internal processes with our COCC curriculum committee and academic affairs committee. And then CODA, PAC, NWCCU, federal financial aid, all those things. And so the next step would then be, we would recruit our faculty and recruit students. I don't think we're gonna have any trouble. My phone has been ringing off the hook about when is hygiene gonna start? And then we would obviously get those courses scheduled and begin the program. So I'll leave you with dental hygiene. It is an expensive program, but as you can see, we can break even on it. It's clearly needed, and it will provide a high wage, high demand profession benefiting students, our local dental offices, and then the local community, so you don't have to wait too long, right? What kind of questions do you have for me?
Mine is just on the curriculum. That's what drives me nuts, is we have to wait around and build our own curriculum. We have to build our wheel and the wagon before we put a horses in front of it.
Yeah.
Where people who already been doing this for at least 20 other locations in several places. Why
I
can't we
have
just-
the curriculums from Lane, I have the curriculums from Rogue. I shared those with SLT, they've kind of seen what the classes would look like. But yes, CODA is requiring that we actually build our own, but believe me, we will be basing ours off of tried and true.
So why can't we go without spending, this is Mr. Tightwad here. Why can't we go ahead and put this, meet the quota requirements and not hire your director until the year we actually start?
Well, it's in Rogue Community College asked the same question and they did it that way, and then they got delayed by a year because CODA came back and slapped their hand and said, you did not hire the program director, you need to go back and redo your curriculum because they weren't here. I agree, and so did they, but there's nothing I can really
Alan, you
do
had
about
a
that.
question,
Well,
and then we've got.
I wanted to ask about the dentist. So here we're building a program to support dental work in Central Oregon, and do they have any skin in the game, kind of? I mean, do they help support this program in some way, right?
So, yes, so what would happen is we would hire a dentist to be the we have to have a dentist on staff. They don't have to be the program director, but they have to help oversee things. We would have an advisory board that would include dentists. They might want to teach, right? I'm hoping we can have dental hygienists teach. Just so you know, like, to actually be a program director, you have to have a master's degree, and you have to be, a dental hygienist. To teach in the program, not be a program director, but to teach, you have to have a bachelor's degree. It doesn't have to be in hygiene, but you have to be a certified dental hygienist with a bachelor's degree. So we should be able to find people to teach, and the dentists, they'll be involved in an advisory board. They will definitely, I will send out curriculum to get that so they have a chance to look at it as part of the advisory board, and we will get their input.
And they'll promise to hire people we train.
Well, our needs assessment, they sure said they would, so I'll hold them to that.
And they have capacity for the externships.
Yeah, I think the number, I can't remember, I had it, I think it was like 70-some% of them said they would take our students for externship.
Aaron had a question.
Yeah, so are all of the facilities, would it be at COCC or partially in everything here or partially in Madras too? Or other?
All the hands-on things would be in the 8 operatories that are here in the Health Career Center on the Bend campus. But when they go to do their externships, they can do those in their home communities.
Where do the startup funds come from?
Are the startup funds included in your matrix of what
No,
our
Or
college?
the startup costs, where do those?
they would be part of our budget.
Our
We would
budget,
have to
yeah.
incorporate that into our budget and make sure that worked out, so.
That was actually gonna be my question.
Michael,
So
you're
this
more
won't be
eloquent than I am.
Until the summer, until July 1, so we don't have to adjust our budget now.
Right. You know, part of it, like the program director, you know, we'll have to hire, but a lot of it can be capital things that we, you know, if the program's not gonna open for 2 years, right, then we can work on it next year.
Is the fees that you're talking $2,000 per semester, you said, addition?
Per term, yeah.
Is there financial aid available to students for that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we will be working with Department of Ed to get, I know, federal aid.
Sure.
Ability.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
So I guess there is a resolution where we're just asking that you allow us to hire this program director and continue to take the steps to move in that direction.
Do we have?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Be it resolved that the Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors approves the development of an Associate of Applied Science in Dental Hygiene degree program.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I'll just say, Julie, thanks for great presentation.
Yeah, you answered all my questions.
And to all the folks who helped you put it together. All right, any other discussion? Noting none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by saying no or raising your hand. Noting none, motion carries unanimously. Okay, so this brings us to the Neighborly Ventures discussion. I am going to leave the room. If Erica, you would take over, please. Sure. Because I have a potential conflict of interest because my firm represents our joint venture partner.
Okay. Okay, so we are now on the extended due diligence period for Neighborly Ventures Phase 2, and we have Michael Lalonde here with us.
Thank you. On the southeast corner of Mount Washington and Shevlin Park Road, the college owns approximately 3 acres of land. That 3 acres has been leased to Neighborly Development, which is a sister company of Neighborly Venture, which is completing the apartments down the hill. The lease agreement actually extended through February of 2023. And at that point, we agreed to do a extension of the due diligence period for another year. They came to us and they said, we need more time to look this over, work with the city, see what market conditions are happening. At that point, we extended the due diligence period to February of 2025. So I think I messed up the date before it was no, that's right, it's 2023. So they paid us $30,000 to do that. They're coming to us again and asking for an additional due diligence period. This time they're not offering to pay us any money. The last time $30,000, now no money, but they need additional time because they've had a number of iterations based on the current market conditions of this property. Currently, they're thinking it's going to be 69 units, but within those 69 units, through negotiations with the city, 12 would be affordable housing. Affordable for someone that has 90% of AMI or lower. For doing that, they will get a tax abatement for the difference between the property taxes for the land only and the improvements on the land. So they get a benefit for it. So in your packet is a background description as well as a proposed resolution.
Michael, is the 15% a standard percentage, or how was that the 12 of 69 determined?
Negotiations with the city. I don't know if that's a typical rate that they could ask for or not, but that's what the negotiations have been all about. Now, this is going to be something completely different than the development down the hill. They've just redesigned it so it meets current market conditions. So it'll be similar, but not the same and a different name.
So,
Awesome.
Michael, is there agreement with the city related, is this tax increment financing? Conversation that the city is having right now with a number of developers where. Or is it different than the TIF discussion that's occurring right now with the city?
I don't know a lot about the TIF discussion that
Because
I
I-
don't think it sounds the same.
Okay. But the city has not made its decisions about that yet, which projects will be selected. So
You're
this
talking-
sounds an awful lot like that TIF
Okay.
conversation, but that has not been determined yet. So are they coming to us before they know they're getting that?
Oh,
Because
they don't know they're
they don't
getting
know.
it.
They are actually going to the city council with a number of other
With a number,
developments.
But they
but they
don't
will
have
not
it yet.
necessarily
it
be
yet.
chosen. There are many other options. There are a lot of folks who have applied. So this is not a guarantee for them anyway, right?
It's not a guarantee.
So isn't the tip related, but it's a transportation infrastructure?
This is a tax increment financing strategy. Mhm.
This is different.
What's that?
This
This
is,
is older programs, I think, that
this is a
they're working
new
on.
program the city has started in the last year or so. To try to assist in providing affordable rates at 90% or below, but. I'm just trying to understand what they're. Proposing here, honestly.
They just want an extended due diligence period. Our lease agreement with them is very favorable to us. And they just need more time to work it out with the city.
Yeah.
But as I
Because they
understand it,
haven't gotten there.
This has to do with the urban renewal. Or housing units, and I don't know what they call it here in Banff. But in Madison, we have something similar what our real estate development is, our discussion. 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whatever it was. Actually, of course, man, this is a different economic area. We're running our numbers at 80%, not 80%.
If I can just try to, perhaps I'm being overly simplistic, but I'll give it a try. Michael's here asking for an extension of their time to consider if they want to get involved with us in long-term leases for this property. I think part of why they obviously want to make that attractive to COCC as something to do, right? And they want to have a successful enterprise. And I think part of that is letting us know that they are trying very hard to have incentivized affordable housing. So, but that we don't know if they're going to get that yet.
Yeah.
but their due diligence period runs out within days.
Correct, yeah.
One of the discussions we had, the real estate is. If we don't engage this, what are we gonna do? Step back and start an entire process again and open it up for another development to come in? And how far back is that gonna set us on this development as opposed to giving them, if you will, a little breathing space? See if they can actually carry through what we have there, because to back out and to get another developer in there, put us 3 to 5 years behind. More activity.
And we're in a position where we're leasing property and most groups want to buy property because it just is more financial sound for them to buy, develop and they can do better. But with the college, they're willing to go with us with a leasing situation, which is in our benefit in big picture, because we will be bringing an income stream in that'll help us with our endeavors. So it behooves us to be supportive of neighborly ventures, and they wouldn't probably be asking for this if they could have worked with the city faster.
I don't know, I guess I don't want to see it too excited about the affordable housing. It's a possibility, it is not a certainty. And that's sort of for this discussion, in my opinion, it's an interesting fact, or it's an interesting piece of information, but
Bit of a red herring.
yeah. In my view, and I don't work with this every day anymore.
I'm trying to remember when they asked for this before, for the extension before. Did they, were we expecting them to have had renters in there by now? No, okay.
The-
We were not expecting these units to have been completed and rented by now. That was a different conversation about something else.
Different project.
Different something, okay.
So we wouldn't be here we wouldn't be here discussing this if interest rates aren't so, if interest rates were 7%. And people are just held up for various reasons. And there's been a slowdown. It's happening everywhere. We have 4 projects in Madrid that are all about either completed or close to being completed. There's a little bit of concern that we may not have enough horsepower to build out what we got. And I think this is what we're looking at here. And that's why in Madrid we have the urban funding tool as well as our MRC and the Madrid Redevelopment Corporation. It takes a lot of people involved. For the city of Bend to be involved, I'm really glad because sometimes those guys, in my opinion, are outside can get sideways. And so if they're saying this is what we are offering to all our real estate developers, and we do, and the organization does get it, great. But I believe if they don't get it, they will still be looking, how can we make this happen? They put too much money into this project, in the ground, as well as engineering and all the things that to make this happen over the last 2 years with their extension. They're not gonna walk away from it, but it may be a different story, it may be a longer request for monies or maybe teach them to engage their needs. Our conversation with the real estate development, when having William Smith property, investment, Wispy, William Smith Properties, they have done such a great job. And, they advise us and we ask them, when you ask them, if it was your project, what would you do? They said, yes, we would consider an extension, work with the city, whatever it takes to make this thing happen. And we have not lost one bit over the last, my 10 years, 15, 16 years, COCC. If we say no to it, everything stops, you guys start over. If we say yes to it, we haven't lost it. And the question is, maybe we should ask for $30,000 like we did last year. Well, we haven't lost that 30 because we never had it. And I personally wanting to extend this.
And I'm happy to report these apartments down the hill are picking up quite a bit in terms of leasing, so. Yeah, it's good to hear.
Yeah, it's not a reflection of the developer anywhere, it's a reflection of the market right now. And I heard comments that why aren't we focusing more when we're doing the entire development, and why aren't we looking more at, low income housing? There's an opportunity to explore into low income housing. I think shows that there's a cost of it.
So if we extended the due diligence period to next year, they could potentially, the due diligence period means they're still deciding whether this is gonna work. So we still wouldn't really know until next year, a year from now. Or sooner, whether, okay. And it was originally this moment when they were going to tell us, so we're just waiting a year.
And, and then they get their whole program squared away and how they make that decision and make the decision, and if they do get it, guess what? Private business is greedy, and they want the money that we've already put into it.
They want to go quick.
So they will make it happen.
Yeah.
Like I say, if they don't get it, there may be some, that's where they keep their 1-year extension. So they readjust, then you come back with a different number of units for a partial project. We still come part of that conversation, say, do you continue to go forward, or do you say we'll adjust it?
Can I ask one more quick question? What is the, do we have a, like about the lease? What is the value of the lease?
It's based on a percentage of the value of the property. And I want to say 8. And then and when the value of the property increases, we take a look at it every 5 years, and then it would be 8% of the value of the property. Yeah. So, which is usually really unusual, that it can increase over time for us in terms of cash flow.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Aaron?
Nope,
Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
no, thank you. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, well, you know, Erica didn't have eyes on her. back.
Yeah.
It is behind me.
You are not her child.
So would
So I'll
somebody
do
like
a
to make a motion?
Motion.
Okay,
I move that we approve the third amendment to a ground lease agreement between Central Oregon Community College and Neighborly Development LLC.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, the motion has been stated and seconded. I just lost my words. Okay, so any other comments or questions?
I just want to change my motion to say to extend the due diligence period until February 15, 2026. I didn't know there was a real motion here, so I just.
Oh, you just.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just thought.
Good job.
Yeah, nice, Alec.
And it is 8% of the value of the property.
Okay, so moved and seconded. An addition from Alan. Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, so motion passes. Thank you. I'm gonna get Laura.
I'm so excited.
Okay. Oh, I thought for a minute she was behind me too. What is going on? Oh, you're welcome.
Data warehouse purchase proposal. Laura.
Okay, in your packet, there is a proposal for what we're at the data warehouse. The acronym that we're using is Unified Data Analytics Solution. So I'm currently wearing my IT hat right now. So, but this Unified Data Analytics Solution is one of our strategic plan initiatives. So what it is drawing together our various data sources into one data warehouse so that we can do reporting on that rather than our production database, which is would be tremendously helpful and also provide much more robust data performance and so on. So this is put forward here because we did a RFQ in the fall, request for quote, and we have found a partner named Aerosant LLC to provide us a solution which is called an Oracle Analytics Cloud solution. And just to help people remember, to recollect that last year we came to the board because our banner, which is our primary ERP system, so enterprise system that tracks student information, finance, all of that. We lifted it from what was called the Ellucian Cloud and put it into something called OCI, which is Oracle Cloud. And so that one is where it sits today. So this solution also aligns really well with that. You thought the accounting report was boring, so here we go. So, and then what I wanted to make you aware that we did pick this vendor. The particular money to support this initiative, we have a Title III grant that was awarded to the college. One of the 4 initiatives in the Title III grant was this Unified Data Analytics Solution. There were in that grant $380,000 awarded over a 5-year period for this, and then the additional money of $115,000 was determined that the college would commit to support to have a $495,000 over 5-year budget for this project. So this is to ask for your support in doing that, to approve the award and purchase of this $495,000 to Aerosant LLC. And as soon as we would get your approval, we have notified Aerosant that pending board approval, they have been the chosen vendor. And then we would start on this project with them
And as noted, the budget impact is essentially $495,000, most of which is covered by the Title III grant. So we would ask for your support. I'm totally fine. I tried to make that as short as possible, but totally fine to answer any questions.
So I'll just note that when it comes to audits and technology, boring is good because it means there's nothing bad happening.
Great, thank you.
Anyone have questions for Laura?
Some of the practical applications of this, like right now we're doing these workarounds. Does this, what does it, what life will be better? I'm just. curious
Well,
what-
they are not here, but I will give a shout out, and Alicia sure can too, for she oversees the institutional effectiveness folks, so. We have Bryn Pierce and Chris Egerton. Chris Egerton, I want to give a shout out. He did a tremendous, he was the lead person for this RFQ, along with myself and another team of folks. And so it would make their life quite a bit easier. Today, the way that things work, there's a lot of reporting. Again, Alicia could give more details on that. But that they do for student, like if you go out to their website, the IE group has a bunch of Tableau reports that they do, pulling all sorts of data about student retention, student demographics, financial aid, and a lot of this data is pulled directly from our Banner production database, which is not best practice, right? So let's just say somebody does a query against that database and it's a relatively clumsy query. It can literally bring our Banner system to its knees. I can see Erica nodding over there.
Yeah, well, that's bad. That would be bad.
Yeah, and so, so what this will improve, which is this idea of the data warehouse, is it combines a bunch of data from different tables in our Banner database, puts it into a common location that allows us, one, not to be hitting our performance or our production database anymore, and puts it into a location that if something does go awry, it's not bringing our production database to a standstill or just not best practice to really do that. So, and these are very large systems. So as you can tell just by the cost, these are not insignificant, because the way this project was outlined for the strategic plan is that over this 5 years, we're going to do a proof of concept with some very specific student data that is used by IE. And then over time, we would expand that with other sources of data, primarily from Banner. I hope that answers it without being too complicated.
And we can compare things a little more easily or like.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. You can compare things more easily. Really, a lot of it is to allow us to, I'll say, flatten the structure in a way to get to data much more effectively and quickly, rather than say you have to do a bunch of different little queries or combination of queries. So putting it into a big pool or warehouse where you can do more efficient queries. So I hope
I think that the only other piece I would add is this goes back to, I think it was last spring, we did a presentation, I called it a data lake, right? Where a lake has multiple streams coming into it. We have multiple databases that we're pulling data from. And if we can put it into one common lake, it allows us to get more consistent data amongst all of our multitudes of systems into the hand of end users for both operational and strategic decisions much more quickly than all the manual work that we have to do now to make that happen.
It sounds fantastic.
it will be. The people that are doing this data retrieval, so this isn't every employee on campus. This is a set of people like our programmers, the IE folks. We can obviously give some access to certain folks, but it just makes it their lives a lot easier.
How often would the data update, since it's not the original source?
We would likely have, depending on, what we're pulling, and what the recency, if you will, of the data, likely at least overnight. But if there was something more urgent, we could have data more quickly.
Okay, and then your visualization tool is still Tableau?
Yes, so this product has, so today, if you go out to the IE website, what you see is something called Tableau. We also use another product that is a report tool called Argos. The RFQ was written in a way that this solution has to be able to output to those. In addition, though, this solution has its own reporting tools and so on. We right now in the short term are not going to do that part of it, just because we're going to keep using the tools that we have. But over time, we may decide to do that.
Yeah. Have you talked about using any AI now that all the
This tool does have that on. That was in the RFQ as well. So we do have, I'll be honest, that was not one of our priorities, but we did have a section where they could
the vendors could speak to what those capabilities were, and so this solution does have those capabilities.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So Aerosant is gonna help us build out the data warehouse,
that is correct.
and Oracle's gonna be the platform.
Oracle is the platform, that is
Okay.
correct.
And what's the yearly cost for Oracle going forward?
Well, for this, it's gonna be about $50,000 per year. Just for so you have a, what's called a SaaS model, so software as a service. We pay a monthly fee or an annual fee, roughly, for this particular solution, just for the data warehouse part of it, it's gonna be about $50,000 a year.
Is there like limited licenses, or can anybody access it, or?
It is limited licensing, so again, it's not gonna be like, everyone isn't
Yeah.
gonna be in there doing this, because this wouldn't necessarily be part of their job.
Probably a good thing too.
Yeah.
So in the future, say 5 years or 10 years down the road, things change. All the data warehouse that you're putting in there is gonna be ours. And if we move to someone else, it's not gonna impact.
That is correct. So it's built into it was built into the RFQ. We won't be doing contracting until you all approve it. But once we move into contracting, we would take the requirements that we had in the RFQ and embed that piece, which the data, we own the data. It's housed in that system, but we own the data, if that's your question.
Yes. And then my other question, if it is one, is clarification for my simple mind. Is that when we do this, basically the tool that you're using cannot be interrupted by anyone else trying to mess around with this data warehouse and punch the wrong button, and then we have a catastrophe.
Yeah, that's correct.
So we are exposed, we have that exposure now, I think.
We do have that exposure right here. Yeah. Yeah, good question. And you're following perfectly along, so you got it.
That is after 6.
Yeah. Other questions? Clarifications?
Well, with that, I'll move that we approve the award and purchase of the $495,000 UDAS/data warehouse solution to Aerosant LLC as outlined in sections A and B of this resolution.
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded. I do have one question for you, Laura.
Yeah.
Will that be in the 2025-26 budget?
It's going to be, so the Title III funds are Alicia, please clarify if I say anything incorrect here. The Title III funds are available now.
Okay.
Right, so that's where we would start with the beginning of this project. We have put in additional requests for that $50,000 I mentioned that Jim, you asked about for the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
Alicia, anything you want to add that I missed?
No, that's great. I mean, the Title III is on a federal fiscal calendar, which goes through September 30th. So we have that overlap, Laura, where we can start spending the federal funds now.
And you'll be able to see, so thank you very much. You'll be able to see it, I don't know when, but at some point there will be in the series of strategic initiative updates, you'll hear more about this and we'll be further along with that. All right, thank you, everybody.
I feel like we're moving our technology forward. We are. Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by saying no or raising your hand. None noted, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And that brings us to the contract award for digital marketing advertising services, and that's Lucas. And that just reminded me, I do want to thank Lucas because I forgot to mention him and I apologize. And I'm sure I forgot other people too, thanking him for helping us through the presidential hiring process, because Lucas had to give up a lot of lunches and late times to come help us. So thank you. And likewise, Kyle, very much. And Kyle did a great job of making sure that the board was well cared for so we couldn't complain and be difficult.
There was no pizza on Monday when I came in.
We ate it all. So Lucas, do you want to talk about this one or?
Sure. Yeah, so we're seeking a proposal or resolution to bring on board a new digital marketing agency. So our contract expired with the prior agency who we've been working with for 7 years. And we put out an RFP, got a lot of great proposals, 16 in fact. Went through all of the proposals and found the agency that we felt was the best to serve our needs as an institution. Primarily, we would be working with them for digital media buying. So that includes things like social advertising, display, all of that kind of stuff, which we currently do as well. along with a little bit of strategy work, and also some creative work as well. This is a very competitive agency, as were many of the others. This one particularly specializes in higher ed, with a big focus in two-year institutions as well, which we were really looking for and taking that into consideration as we were looking to onboard an agency. So they should be very well aware of trends within higher education, as well as trends within the digital landscape as well, to kind of help us further along our digital marketing efforts. That's the high level. Happy to answer questions.
What's the value of the contract before?
This has been built into the budget essentially, so we're not asking for additional funds or anything. So this is just current.
This is about what it has been
budget.
over the last few years.
Yeah, this is what it was for this year essentially. What's listed here, and it did not say the name, so I apologize. It's graduate communications. They go by GradCom for short.
Any questions or comments for this? No. Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion?
The Central Oregon Community Board of Directors approves a contract award for digital marketing and advertising services to Graduate Communication DBA GradCom as outlined in the RFP, supporting the college's enrollment and brand awareness initiative.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Noting none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by saying no or raising your hand. Noting none, motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Lucas.
You.
All right, so that brings us to the Board of Directors Operations and Committee updates. And we will start with the Advocacy Committee. Erin.
Well, the advocacy committee has been meeting with a number of elected leaders around the region. I think they've been really valuable conversations. Things are getting going in the legislative session. There are a number of bills that I think we've all been tracking on. We may have a chance to talk about a little bit more deeply at our upcoming meeting. There is an OCCA legislative summit coming up on March 5th. We are in discussions about whether someone will go to that, I believe. But can you just mention, you said that there will be a student and instructors going to the CTE day. Can you talk about that?
Well, we don't know who those are yet. The OCCA does sponsors CTE Day, where there are different programs from different colleges. And typically what they do is they ask us to nominate a few programs where folks could come by, show their
Wares.
wares. And what they do is they try to choose between those to not have repeats. So I would feel confident we will have someone there. But we don't know at this point.
When is that? Do you know? Because I know February is CTE month. I was thinking this must be like coming up for March 5.
March 5th.
That's the legislative summit day.
Right.
And that's the same thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
it happens at the same
It
time.
happens at the same time.
On that.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So we'll have some presence there. Students, though, I'm not sure 100% will have additional folks, but we'll talk about that, I think, a little bit more in our next meeting.
Thank you. Investment Committee, we had our first meeting with Michael and the two other members of the committee, which are volunteers from the community who are experts in this area, and agreed to meet. And we were kind of being sort of oriented by Michael on what we're doing, and they asked a lot of really good questions. You know, do we do this? Do we do that? And it was mostly an orientation type of thing, kind of learning. They had a little bit of learning to do about what the college was doing, about what we wanted out of the investment committee, and Michael did some education for us, and we'll be meeting again in the near future. So
right,
that's it. So OCCA board, Erin.
Yeah, we did have a recent meeting. There's been a lot of updates, certainly on the state and federal level. Lori's been doing a great job keeping us informed of some of the more pressing issues. I don't have too much to add to that, other than OCCA appointed a new executive director within the last year or so, Abby Lee, and she is touring around to the different campuses, and I think she's gonna plan to be here next month at our board meeting. So it'll be really great to meet her in person. I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, I've been incredibly impressed by her work. She is really sharp. And she has been going to meet all the boards and visit all the campuses. And she asked to come in March. And I hadn't talked with you all about that yet, because I haven't talked with her about her plans. And I was gonna get through this meeting before I start talking about the next one with Laura and Erica. So I was, you know, I would suspect she'll join us for dinner, and she'll give a short introduction of herself and the work she does in OCCA. She may wish to, if you're available, set up a time to speak with some of you and just ask about your issues, concerns, initiatives. But it's still foggy.
The other update I'll give, because I previously mentioned that OCCSA, the Student Association, has been revived, and they announced that they've approved a set of bylaws, and now they have an official governance structure. So that feels really exciting that there's more opportunity for student voice through this association, and they've had a lot of mentorship from OCCA and an advisor at PCC, I believe. So that was a great update. But otherwise, that's all I have.
No, I would just say, I mean, Erin's absolutely right. There's just a lot of talk, what has come out of either the federal government or the state legislature lately, and what do we know about it for sure? And right now, we don't know a lot about these things for sure. But we're keeping a very close eye on all the developments.
Joe, real estate.
Real estate was pretty much predominantly in regards to our neighborly ventures project. If we had any other conversation, just an update on some of those pieces. Projects that they are involved with.
Thank you. Board member activities. Do you mind if I start with you, Erin?
Sure. Yes, we had an advocacy committee meeting on January 16. And the next week was when we began all of our presidential discussions. And so participated in those with Angela Toss on January 22nd. Had some calls with Laura and Erin and Lori that week to just talk a little bit about the things that were occurring kind of at the federal level and some of the impacts that might have on campus. We had an OCCA legislative call on January 28th that I caught a portion of. State of the College the next morning, January 29. Great job, Lori. And then Greg Pereira was here that day. We had a Lori and I had a conversation with Emerson Levy, our representative, the next day, just again talking about some of these big issues. We met that Friday with Gavin Coble from Senator Merkley's office, where I will say some of you may already be aware that the $3 million that we may be had anticipated being part of this last budget for the Madras campus they're in a bit of a holding pattern. You may all know that already. We had our Steve Erickson discussion on February 6th, and then our presidential search discussion on February 8th. It's been a big month.
Erica.
Yeah, on the I did these early. Okay, so in January, I put one for all of them, but they're not all in January. Yeah, there is a change in the numbers start over again. So, okay, so on January 17th, I had to check in with Lori and Laura, which was our usual check-in. On the 22nd of January, we had our formal interview with the candidate, the Bend community meeting, and then the dinner afterwards. And on the 29th and then February 6th, also the same activities. On the 4th of this month, I had the OSU Cascades AAB meeting, and probably the highlight of that would be touring the new student center. It's fantastic. the feeling of it is wonderful. If you get a chance to walk through it, awesome presentations from students in the different groups that will be housed in there. So it's anytime you see something like that being opened and created within our community and excitement around it, and just another place for community members and students to be, it's very exciting. So yeah, that was the very best part. And then there were some other things touched on. The Damn Proud fundraising effort that goes on every year. There's the legislative plan for the students and health, their student health and recreation center. They're still looking at the Cascade Lakes building to possibly do a program in there. So some fun things going on. And then on the 7th, we had a debrief on, or I talked to Sherm about the candidates and got his feedback. And then on the 8th, we had our presidential deliberations here. And then you'll be proud of me.
I always
On the 11th, yesterday, I attended the public meetings law training.
Yeah, fabulous.
I got in. And I actually did learn a lot from it. And even just knowing where the resources are and being able to go back and refer to them was excellent. So I was like, oh, that's gonna take so long. And then I left actually being really grateful for it.
Same.
And then I had calls with Laura on the 6th of this month and the 9th, and then a call with Laura and Zach on the 10th. And I think that's it, but I might be missing something. Yeah,
no. Chief.
Yeah. I attended the real estate meeting on the 14th, Joe on the 29th, the state of the college, and again, for an excellent job. 25th, Dr. Tops, and 29th, Pereira, and on the 6th, Dr. Erickson, and deliberations. Been busy.
Yes.
Ellen.
I'm gonna leave it to Kyle to know the dates because everybody else has said them. So I did have a real estate committee meeting, state of the city, our state of COCC with Lori. 3 interviews with candidates, 3 dinners with candidates, 3 Redmond community talks. I talked to Tobias Colvin, who I asked to be on the budget and audit and budget committee. We had a COCC audit committee and reviewed the audit before this meeting in the board executive session. I think that's all. It'd be bad since I hear you guys talk.
Joe?
January 9th, we have COCC Audit and Finance Committee. January 14th was our real estate meeting. The 3 candidate interviews and dinners, and also followed up on the president review last Saturday.
Thank you. Aaron.
On January 14th, I attended the OCCA DEI committee meeting. January 16th, our advocacy committee meeting. I attended the 3 candidate interviews and dinners. On January 23rd, had a Zoom meeting with Senator Broadman. On January 27th, I had a Zoom meeting with Representative Crop. And that same day, I attended the Season of Nonviolence event with Reverend Tutu. I attended 2 events, a student event, which my worlds collided in a really beautiful way. We brought our students from Cascades Academy, grades 8 through 12, to have a conversation with her, and it was really beautiful. And we're really grateful to the college to give our students that opportunity. I went to the keynote that evening. The tower was packed. Incredible, incredible. I just want to, Zach's not here, like give so much credit to Zach's team, Christy and her team, and all the incredible work they're doing. I heard the screening of Origin had 150 people and was really moving and powerful. And the Black History Dinner celebration that's coming up in a couple of weeks is over capacity, and they're finding ways to put more people in there. I think at a time where our country is divided, to have these events that clearly people are excited about coming together in community around the theme of belonging is really special. So this college should be very proud to be hosting these events. I know it makes me really proud to be a part of this community. On January 29th, I attended the State of the College address. On February 7th, I attended the OCCA board meeting. February 8th, I attended the special board meeting, and then February 11th, I attended the OCCA DEI committee meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of acronyms in that one.
So I'm a lawyer, so I'm used to remembering that I have to track my time, so I write everything down. So I have 42 things from this last month, so I'm going to email most of them to
Thank you.
not read them, but I'll just give you the highlights. I did attend the real estate committee. Lori and I talked with Senator McLean on his one of his staffers. Attended the advocacy committee, attended the investment committee. Again, you're going to get all of these. Wrote thank you notes to the entire search committee by hand, not email. I got to I don't know if you guys know this, but one of the really great honors that the chair of the board gets to do during the presidential search is to basically have an orientation with each candidate when the first day they come on campus. It means I'm not a morning person. I got to be here in Bend by 7 a.m. But it's really cool because they're, anyway, I felt like I kind of got to know them a little bit. And then I did each of the three candidates, introduce them at the Prineville forums, which was very cool. And of course, all of the various candidate interviews and such. And everything else is like various calls and conversations. But I did have a call on the 11th, yesterday, that was yesterday, yeah, with Lori and Vicki Brees Iverson and we had her herself and her chief of staff. I thought it was just gonna be her chief of staff, but she was there too. And I have to say that despite COVID, Lori's done a very good job of getting out to be known by the people that she really needs to be known by, because Vicki was just, she's like, yeah, I'm glad. I'm sure you'll get a new good president, but I really hate that you're losing this one. So I thought that was very nice. And Vicki was really instrumental in getting us funding
For Madras.
Yeah, for Madras. So anyway, that is my abbreviated list, we'll say. So that brings us to the president's report.
All right. Well, I have just a couple of things. First of all, enrollment for winter compared to point in time last winter continues to be really promising. In FTE, we're up 3.4%. In head count, 9.6%. And I just always caution that those numbers fluctuate, so we'll see where we land at the end of the year. I want to sort of tag on to Aaron Merz's comments and would encourage you, I won't list them all, but there are some excellent events in the season of nonviolence and in Black History Month coming up still. I was going to mention the dinner celebration. I didn't know it was sort of sold out. But there's the Black History, I'm going to mention it anyway, dinner celebration. There's an Afrobeat dance class in Redmond at the Artec, Allen. And an artist talk called Turtle Wisdom here at the Barber Library. And there's a contemporary dance performance for the second year in a row associated with the season of nonviolence. And this is called, the title of performance, which will be in Pinckney, is Fragments of Connection, Quests for Belonging, interpreted through dance. And a couple of our faculty members are very, very involved. They are dancers and they're very involved with sponsoring and making sure that this event happens. Stephanie Andre, who was on the search committee, she's great. And Jessica Hammerman, who is a fabulous history instructor. Last year was part of the discussions on Gaza. They're also dancers, so pretty incredible. And then lastly, I want to congratulate the board on running what, in my view, was an exemplary president search and having such an exemplary outcome to it. I think it is fabulous that Dr. Greg Pereira is coming here. And I think he is a great candidate for the future. And I've enjoyed meeting him on a couple of occasions. And I congratulate him because I think you are lucky to have him and he is lucky to be coming here. And I just think the future is bright. So I just wanted to say that.
Here, here.
I'd like to make a comment. So when we go to OCCA meetings or the OSCC here in state, when you talk to other board members, or you talk or hear other things at the restaurant and in the bar and all the challenges the boards have, we've always had a great lineup of planets of everything we've ever done, through at least my association over many years. With Lori announcing her intent to retire, we had Zach as our lead in regards to that project. And then, and I believe we have not, I know we had perfect two people to take this on behalf of the board. Because there's a lot of time, Laura made that point, but she was here at 7 o'clock in the morning. And if you figured out a privilege, I'm not a morning person either, and I still don't like it. But to do that from Prineville requires well before 5 o'clock. And also the conversations, the number of things, and of course you had 42 things to report to Kyle. And then Erica, you're talking back and forth, and then recruitment, it just takes a lot. And I've seen it twice, where this is the third one. I've never been involved with it, but we just got to make sure that we all know that we're an extremely unique board and organization, and we've hired the right people at the right time and the right purposes. We just got to be very proud of the organization we're associated with.
So give ourselves
I lost my words earlier because I feel like it's hard to find words to working with Laura through this process, her being the chair. I'm just in awe of you. Like the expertise you bring, there were lots of things to solve and work through, and she's our fearless leader at all steps of the way. So I don't know that we would have had this outcome without her in this place as the chair. So thank you so much, Laura, for your time and your energy and your expertise and your effort and all that you give. You're here.
Thank you.
Yes.
I love this place and I love working with this group, and there's a lot of really special people in this room and at this college and in this community. Right, so it's been my pleasure and I appreciate that I've been trusted with it. But I'm sure you'll understand why I'm never doing this again. But thank you. Much appreciate that. Well, you heard Dr. Pereira said,
I know, he's never leaving.
if you choose me, he said, and I will come here, and my youngest son is 5 years old and gonna start kindergarten. I'm not moving him till he graduates. I'm not moving till he graduates from high school. So. Right, so we'll have to get that in the contract.
Partnership, hopefully.
All right, so we have the advocacy committee coming up on the 21st of February. We will have an investment committee coming as soon as your board representative is done with all this other stuff and can respond to the doodle poll. And I don't think we have a real estate this month. So we will see everybody next in March. Here, and I think perhaps we might want to, our board meeting is not spring break week, right? No, okay.
For it, yeah. I think spring break's at the end of the month.
Yeah, okay, perfect. I don't have kids in school anymore, so.
And maybe a special meeting before then.
Oh, yes, we probably will have a special meeting. Hopefully we will, because we'll need to do a contract for the president, which we will work on with Preston. Oh, one more, thank you. Preston Williams has done a fabulous job. He especially where he brought, I mean, he's very valuable. He's very knowledgeable. He did a great job of recruiting candidates. Where he especially provided tremendous value was doing the really deep dive on the reference checks. He knows so many people and they trust him and he trusts them so that he can get a lot of information to help us out. And that was really valuable. So if you ever talk to Preston, do please tell him thank you. And with that, thank you all for the great reports tonight. Nice to see everybody and have a good evening. We're adjourned. Oh.